Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. If your life was a reflection of your thoughts yesterday, what would it look like today? See, most people don't realize this truth. You are living inside the results of your own thinking. Your outer world is simply the photograph of your inner thoughts. And until you change the picture in your mind, you'll never change the portrait of your life. The mind is not just powerful, it's everything. Your thoughts are the architects of your destiny. Every success, every failure, every breakthrough begins in your mind long before it shows up in your life. When you think small, you live small. When you think abundance, you attract abundance. See, God designed you with divine imagination. He didn't create you to live in lack or limitation. He created you to think your way into greatness. Proverbs says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That means your life moves in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. You can't think defeat and live in victory. You can't meditate on fear and walk in faith. You can't keep rehearsing the past and expect a brand new future. The problem is not that people don't have the ability. It's that they don't have the right mentality. If your mind is filled with doubt, you'll sabotage every opportunity that tries to bless you. If your mind is filled with excuses, you'll never find solutions. But when your mind is filled with purpose, possibility, and faith, mountains move, doors open, and favor follows you like a shadow. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to think about what's really shaping your life right now? Not your job, not your relationships, not your circumstances, but your thoughts. Because the truth is, your thoughts are the unseen architects of your reality. Every result you see around you, good or bad, was first created in the workshop of your mind. You are not living in the world as it is. You are living in the world as you think it is. Your outer world is simply a mirror reflecting your inner world. The mind doesn't care what you plant in it. It will return whatever seed you sow. If you fill it with fear, doubt, and negativity, your life will reflect that chaos. But if you fill it with faith, vision, and gratitude, your life will begin to bloom with possibility. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because their thinking never evolved beyond their environment. They are trapped in old thoughts, rehearsing the same stories that keep them small. If you want to change your life, you don't start by changing your job, your partner, or your location. You start by changing your thoughts. Let me give you a simple truth. Your mind is a magnet. It doesn't pull in what you wish for. It pulls in what you believe in. You attract what you think about most. When you constantly think about lack, you magnetize more lack. When you think about abundance, ideas and opportunities begin to show up, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Your thoughts determine your focus, and your focus determines your future. The most powerful shift you can make is deciding that your mind will no longer be a warehouse for worry, but a factory for faith. The problem is that most people have allowed their thinking to be programmed by the world. They scroll through negativity, listen to doubt, and consume fear on repeat. Then they wonder why their life feels stuck. You can't expect prosperity while feeding your mind with poverty. You can't expect peace while constantly entertaining chaos. You become what you repeatedly think about, and most of your thoughts aren't even yours. They're borrowed from people who've already quit on their dreams. Here's the truth. You have the power to rewrite your mental software. You can choose new thoughts just like you can choose new clothes. The moment you begin to speak differently to yourself, the energy around you begins to shift. Start telling yourself, I am capable. I am chosen. I am built for greatness. Say it until your subconscious starts to believe it. Because your subconscious mind doesn't respond to facts. It responds to repetition and emotion. When you repeat a thought often enough with conviction, it becomes your identity. And once it's your identity, your behavior will automatically align with it. Most people think circumstances create mindset, but it's the other way around. Your mindset creates your circumstances. You don't need to see change to believe it. You need to believe it to see change. The moment you decide to think differently, you set new forces in motion. People show up, doors open, opportunities unfold. But none of that happens until you make the internal decision to elevate your thoughts. As Myron Golden often says, you can't think average and live extraordinary. The life you want requires the thoughts that match it. Your thinking is either your passport or your prison. Some people have $1 million dreams, but $100 mindset. They're waiting for success to give them permission to think bigger, when in reality, thinking bigger is what creates success. You don't wait for the evidence to believe. Your belief creates the evidence. That's why high achievers don't focus on what is, they focus on what could be. They live from vision, not from circumstance. They understand that their thoughts are the foundation of everything they build. If you want to transform your life, begin by transforming your mental vocabulary. Stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? Stop thinking about what's missing and start thinking about what's possible. Your brain is a problem-solving machine. When you give it better questions, it gives you better answers. Every great invention, every business, every masterpiece began with a single thought that refused to die. What thoughts are you feeding daily? Because those thoughts will soon feed you. And here's the most powerful truth. Your mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. When you visualize success with emotion and clarity, your brain begins to rewire itself as if it's already happened. You start to act in alignment with that new identity. That's why athletes visualize victory before the game. That's why entrepreneurs see the business long before it exists. The mind moves first, reality follows. So guard your thoughts like treasure, because that's what they are, the currency of your future. Every time you think, you're making a deposit into your destiny. The question is, are you investing in fear or in faith? Are you rehearsing defeat or programming success? Because the mind doesn't take days off. It's always working. The only question is, what is it working on? Your life is the story your mind keeps telling you. If you don't like the story, change the script. Think bigger, believe deeper, expect greater. Because at the end of the day, the world will always respond to the picture you hold in your mind. Your thoughts are not random. They are creative forces shaping everything you experience. The moment you master your mind, you master your life. Let me ask you something. What if the reason you haven't reached your next level isn't because you lack money, time, or support, but because you haven't yet tapped into the power of your own resourcefulness? See, most people spend their lives chasing resources, while the successful ones master the art of being resourceful. The difference between the person who wins and the person who quits is not opportunity. It's how they think when opportunity seems to disappear. When you stop saying, I don't have enough, and start asking, how can I make it happen? Everything begins to change. The truth is, resources are never the problem. Lack of imagination is. There are people who started with nothing, no capital, no connections, no credentials, yet they built empires because they decided to think beyond limitation. Every great achievement in history came from someone who refused to accept their circumstances as the final story. They saw a door where others saw a wall. They saw a way where others saw an end. That's the power of resourcefulness. It's the ability to create possibility in the face of impossibility. You don't need to wait for someone to hand you an opportunity. You have to learn to build one. The mind that says, there's always a way, will always find one. But the mind that complains, I don't have what I need, will keep proving itself right. You attract solutions when you think like a problem solver. You repel progress when you think like a victim. Resourceful people don't focus on what's missing. They focus on what's available, and they maximize it until it multiplies. Think about it. The Wright brothers didn't have aviation schools, investors, or government funding. They had a vision, a few tools, and relentless curiosity. Steve Jobs didn't have billions when he started Apple. He had a garage and a belief that he could change the world. Myron Golden often says, it's not about what's in your hand. It's about what's in your head. Because what's in your head can multiply what's in your hand 1,000 times over. Your ideas are capital. Your creativity is currency. Your discipline is investment. People often say, if I had more, I'd do more. But the truth is, if you don't do more with what you have, having more won't change anything. Money doesn't make you resourceful. It only amplifies who you already are. If you can't manage little, you won't manage much. God doesn't bless waste. He blesses wisdom. The one who multiplies their little will always be trusted with more. That's why you must learn to work your gift, not your excuses. Excuses are expensive. They cost you opportunities, progress, and potential. Here's a question that separates the successful from the stuck. When something goes wrong, do you complain or do you create? Do you say, it can't be done? Or do you say, there must be a way? The first mindset looks for escape. The second mindset looks for expansion. When you're resourceful, challenges don't intimidate you. They activate you. You start seeing lessons inside loss, strategies inside struggle, and growth inside gaps. The very thing you think is blocking you might be the training ground preparing you for your next level. Resourcefulness turns obstacles into opportunities. It's what makes a leader stand out in a room full of talkers. It's what transforms average into excellence. It's not about having the right tools. It's about becoming the kind of person who can build something great even with broken pieces. You might not have everything you want right now, but you already have something valuable: your mind, your creativity, your voice, your persistence, your faith. That's your starting capital. Here's the truth. People are not limited by their circumstances. They're limited by their creativity under pressure. When things get hard, small minds shut down, but great minds open up. When doors close, resourceful minds build new ones. When others see endings, resourceful minds see beginnings. And once you train your brain to think that way, you'll realize that opportunity has been around you the whole time. It was just waiting for your awareness to catch up. Resourcefulness is faith in action. It's saying, I don't see the answer yet, but I believe there is one. That belief activates your creativity and sharpens your focus. You start noticing connections, people, and possibilities that were invisible before. Your perception creates your provision. The moment you stop looking for what's missing and start using what's in your reach, you step into divine flow where ideas meet execution and execution meets elevation. Most people want the fruit but ignore the soil. They pray for the blessing but overlook the process. Resourcefulness is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's the habit of making progress even when conditions aren't perfect. You may not have the ideal environment, but you can create ideal effort. You may not have the loudest voice, but you can develop the sharpest vision. You may not have investors, but you can invest your faith, your energy, your consistency. That's how champions are built, not through what they have, but through how they think. So the next time you find yourself saying, I don't have enough, catch yourself and flip that statement into power. Say, I have everything I need to begin, because that's the truth. You already possess the raw materials for your breakthrough. The only question is whether you'll let excuses bury them or let creativity build with them. Resourcefulness is not about having more, it's about becoming more. And the moment you decide to think that way, the world around you will begin to rearrange itself in your favor. Let me ask you something. How many battles have you lost before you even started fighting? Not because you lacked strength, talent, or opportunity, but because you lost the war in your mind first. The truth is simple but powerful. Every victory or defeat begins inside your head long before it shows up in your life. You win privately before you ever win publicly. You conquer the battlefield of thoughts before you conquer the battlefield of life. Most people never realize this. They keep trying to change their actions without ever changing their mindset. But if your mind isn't ready for the fight, your body, your words, and your results won't be either. The greatest wars are not fought on land, sea, or air. They're fought in silence, inside the space between your ears. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you hesitate, every time you replay failure in your imagination, you're rehearsing defeat. You can't expect to win externally while you're losing internally. The moment your mind agrees with fear, your future starts shrinking. The moment your thoughts surrender to doubt, your potential begins to decay. Success requires mental warfare, the ability to dominate your own doubts and silence the inner voice that says, you can't, because the only real enemy that can destroy your destiny is the one you allow to live rent-free in your mind. Here's the truth. Champions are not built in comfort. They are built in conflict. The mind of a champion is trained to see struggle as strategy, not suffering. When others panic, they plan. When others fear, they focus. When others retreat, they rise. That's because they understand this principle. The battle is won or lost in the mind first. Before the athlete lifts the trophy, he's already won in his imagination. Before the entrepreneur signs the deal, she's already closed it in her belief. The body follows where the mind has already been. When your mindset is strong, obstacles become opportunities and setbacks become setups. But when your mindset is weak, even small problems look impossible. The mind is like a muscle. It only grows when it's challenged. Every time you face resistance, you're being given a chance to strengthen your mental toughness. You have to stop running from difficulty and start training through it. When you decide that nothing outside of you has the power to control what's inside of you, you become unstoppable. So many people wait for motivation before taking action. They wait to feel confident before they commit. But confidence doesn't come first. Decision does. You can't wait for the feeling. You must choose the mindset. You must say, even if I'm afraid, I'm moving forward. That's mental discipline. That's what separates leaders from followers, achievers from dreamers. You don't need the absence of fear to act. You just need the presence of faith. And faith is a mental state, a decision to believe in a result before you can see it. Every negative thought is a seed trying to take root in your mind. If you don't pull it out fast, it grows into limitation. That's why you must become the gatekeeper of your thoughts. Don't let doubt take residence where purpose is supposed to live. When life hits you hard, don't focus on the pain. Focus on the lesson. Don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Because when your mindset is focused on growth, every loss becomes learning. And here's something powerful. Your emotions are servants, not masters. When you let your feelings dictate your actions, your life becomes unstable. But when your mindset governs your emotions, you become consistent and grounded. Discipline is the weapon that guards your mind from chaos. That's why Myron Golden always says, you don't have to feel like it to do it. You just have to decide. A disciplined mind is a free mind, because the moment you control your thoughts, you control your direction. When things fall apart, when plans fail, when the storm hits, that's when your mindset matters most. Anyone can smile when it's easy, but true power is the ability to stay focused when everything around you says quit. That's the difference between the person who grows and the person who gives up. Pressure doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. And when you've already conquered your thoughts, pressure only proves your preparation. You can't afford to let temporary emotions dictate permanent outcomes. Every time you say, I can't, you're programming your mind for limitation. Every time you say, I will, you're commanding your future to move. Your words are instructions to your brain, and your brain will obey whatever you repeatedly tell it. That's why affirmations, faith, and focus are not just motivational concepts. They're mental strategies. Speak victory until your mind accepts it as truth. Because once your mind believes, your actions align and your results follow. The most dangerous battlefield is not out there in the world. It's the one inside your own head. And the only way to win it is to train your thoughts like a warrior. Replace every I can't with I will. Replace every fear with faith. Replace every obstacle with opportunity. When you start thinking like a winner, the world starts responding like you've already won. You are not defeated when you fall. You are defeated when you stop believing. So guard your mind with everything you've got. Because once you master your mind, the world has no choice but to follow. The battle is always won in the mind first, and when your thoughts rise higher, your entire life will rise with them. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to walk in favor no matter what they touch? It's like doors open for them, opportunities follow them, and success seems to chase them down. You might wonder, what do they have that others don't? It's not luck, it's not timing, and it's not who they know, it's how they think. They think with faith, they think with expectation. They think in alignment with divine principles. Because when your thoughts are filled with faith, favor finds you naturally. Faith-filled thinking doesn't wait for signs, it creates them. It doesn't react to reality, it redefines it. Most people live their lives according to sight. They believe only what they can see. But faith-filled thinkers operate from a higher frequency. They understand that belief comes before breakthrough. They know that every miracle starts as a mindset. When you fill your mind with faith, you give God permission to move through you. When you allow faith to dominate your thoughts, you begin to attract the kind of outcomes that logic can't explain. That's not magic. That's mental alignment with divine law. Faith and favor are connected by your thoughts. You can't think defeat all day and expect victory to show up. You can't meditate on fear and expect peace to manifest. You can't fill your mind with doubt and expect faith to produce results. Your mind must agree with what your spirit believes. When you begin to think faith, speak faith, and act faith, the entire atmosphere around you shifts. You become a magnet for opportunity. Why? Because faith-filled thinking releases a different energy. It carries confidence, clarity, and calm in the midst of chaos. It attracts the right people in the right timing because it operates from trust instead of tension. See, most people don't miss blessings because they're not available. They miss them because their mindset is not aligned to receive them. Faith is not blind, it's visionary. It doesn't ignore reality, it interprets it differently. Faith says, this challenge is not punishment, it's preparation. Faith says, this delay is not denial, it's divine timing. Faith-filled thinkers see beyond the surface. They understand that everything is working for their good, even when it doesn't feel good. And that mindset attracts favor because it keeps you moving forward when others stop. When your mind is full of faith, you make decisions from abundance, not fear. You stop asking, what if it fails? And start saying, what if it works? That single shift in thinking opens the floodgates of possibility. Fear closes doors, but faith opens them. Fear makes you hide your gift. Faith makes you multiply it. Fear says, I'm not ready. Faith says, God will make me ready. Fear looks at the facts. Faith listens to the truth. And the truth is that your thoughts are shaping the future you're stepping into. You can't have favor on the outside if you're carrying fear on the inside. The blessing flows through belief. Every time you doubt yourself, you disconnect from the source of favor. Every time you speak limitation, you restrict divine flow. But when you think faith, your life becomes fertile ground for miracles. You stop chasing opportunities because opportunities start chasing you. That's the secret. Faith attracts, fear repels. Faith-filled thinking gives you courage to act when logic says stop. It pushes you to step out when conditions aren't perfect. That's why people who think with faith often do the impossible. They're not waiting for permission, they're walking in conviction. They move as if the promise is already fulfilled, and that confidence draws divine assistance. Heaven responds to expectation. God doesn't move because of need. He moves because of belief. Here's something powerful. Faith is not positive thinking. It's God-based thinking. It's not just about feeling good. It's about being grounded in the truth that your Creator designed you to win. Faith-filled thinkers understand that their thoughts are seeds. And when planted in faith, they must produce fruit. They don't let the noise of the world drown out the voice of purpose. They protect their mental environment like sacred ground. They don't entertain thoughts of lack because they know abundance is their inheritance. They don't let fear dictate their future because they know destiny is already written in their favor. The favor you're praying for is often waiting on the mindset you're resisting. You can't step into a new season with an old mentality. Faith doesn't just change what you expect. It changes who you become. It transforms your posture. You start walking taller, speaking bolder, and thinking bigger. You start expecting good things to happen, and they do. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you aligned your mind with the frequency of favor. Every time you choose faith over fear, you shift something in the atmosphere. You move from desperation to declaration, from anxiety to authority. You stop begging for blessings and start walking in them. You realize that favor is not something you chase, it's something you carry. And when your mind is full of faith, that favor becomes visible to everyone around you. People will call you lucky, but you'll know it's not luck, it's mindset. So train your thoughts to expect divine outcomes even in difficult moments. Speak what you desire, not what you dread. Think in alignment with purpose, not pressure. Because faith-filled thinking doesn't wait for circumstances to be right. It makes them right. When your thoughts are anchored in faith, favor becomes your natural state. And once you start thinking that way, you'll realize that you were never chasing blessings. You were simply awakening the ones that were waiting for your belief to catch up. Let me ask you something. What are you telling yourself every single day? Because the truth is, you don't become what you wish for, you become what you repeatedly believe. Every word you speak, every thought you think, and every story you tell yourself is shaping who you are becoming. Your mind is always listening. It doesn't know the difference between truth and repetition. It only knows what you feed it. And the more you repeat a thought, the deeper it takes root in your subconscious. That's why people stay stuck, not because they lack opportunity, but because they've programmed themselves to believe they can't change. Every belief you hold is a seed. When you plant it in your mind and water it with repetition, it starts to grow. Some people are walking gardens of greatness, while others are living graveyards of self-doubt, all because of what they keep repeating to themselves. If you keep saying, I can't, your brain will collect evidence to prove you right. If you say, I'm capable, your brain will look for ways to help you win. You are constantly conditioning your future with the language you use in the present. Your beliefs are writing your story even when you're not paying attention. Here's the truth most people miss. Repetition is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your beliefs. You can attend every seminar, read every book, and watch every motivational video. But if you don't change the story you're telling yourself, your life will stay the same. You cannot live beyond the boundaries of your beliefs. That's why Myron Golden says, what you believe about yourself sets the ceiling for what you'll receive. Let's be real. Many people want success, but their mind is still repeating the soundtrack of failure. They want abundance, but keep rehearsing scarcity. They want love, but keep expecting rejection. You can't expect to live a new life with old thoughts. You can't speak defeat and walk in victory. The problem isn't that you don't have potential. It's that you keep programming the wrong pattern. Every time you repeat a limiting belief, you're reinforcing a mental wall that keeps you trapped inside your comfort zone. But here's the good news. Beliefs can be rewritten. Your brain is programmable, and you are the programmer. Every time you choose a new thought and repeat it with intention, you're installing new software. When you say, I am confident, even when you don't feel confident, your subconscious begins to align your behavior with that statement. When you declare, I am blessed, your focus starts to shift toward gratitude and possibility. The more emotion you attach to those affirmations, the faster your mind accepts them as truth. Eventually, your actions begin to follow your new belief system automatically. You must understand your subconscious mind doesn't argue, it obeys. It will manifest whatever you consistently feed it, good or bad. That's why you must speak life even when you feel surrounded by loss. You must repeat victory when everything looks like defeat. You must choose faith-filled thoughts until they drown out the noise of doubt. Because over time, repetition becomes reality. The words you whisper today become the world you walk in tomorrow. The most successful people on the planet are not those who never doubted. They're the ones who trained their minds to believe anyway. They built mental habits of success. They talk differently, think differently, and therefore live differently. They know that their belief system is like an autopilot. Once it's programmed for success, it guides every decision, every action, and every response toward that destination. Even when they fail, their beliefs push them to rise again. They don't identify with failure. They identify with resilience. Here's the key. You must repeat what you want to become, not what you're trying to escape. Stop saying, I'm tired of being broke, and start saying, I'm learning how to multiply wealth. Stop saying, I'm always alone, and start saying, I'm attracting meaningful relationships. Words carry vibration, and repetition turns that vibration into manifestation. The universe, God, and your own subconscious all respond to conviction, not complaint. You can't complain your way into change. You have to confess your way into transformation. Every great transformation begins with a decision, the decision to change what you believe about yourself. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by your perception of it. You are not limited by your circumstances. You are limited by your interpretations. When you start repeating truth louder than lies, your old identity begins to crumble and your true potential starts to rise. That's the moment everything shifts, when belief replaces doubt, when faith replaces fear, and when purpose replaces pain. You are always becoming something. The only question is, are you becoming who you were designed to be or who you've been programmed to be? If you want to change your future, start changing your internal dialogue today. Tell yourself you are powerful, you are chosen, you are capable, and you are unstoppable. And don't just say it once, say it every single day until your mind accepts it as fact. Because repetition is the mother of belief, and belief is the father of success. So guard your words, choose your thoughts, and speak your destiny into existence. Your mind is the soil, your beliefs are the seeds, and your repetitions are the water. Whatever you keep nurturing will grow. And the moment you start consistently believing in the greatness within you, your actions will follow, your results will multiply, And your life will begin to mirror the truth you've been declaring all along. You become what you repeatedly believe. So today I challenge you, upgrade your mind before you upgrade your life. Speak power into your thoughts. Visualize greatness, not because it's easy, but because that's who you were designed to be. You are a creation of infinite potential made by a limitless God. Stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I will. Stop doubting your dreams and start disciplining your mind.